today we're talking classics. Okay, let's dive in. We are talking about 5 classic works that I wasn't crazy about when I started them, and I wasn't crazy about in the middle, but the ending was so good. Don't worry, there are no spoilers, and let's get started. First up, Around the World in 80 Days. This book by Jules Verne is an adventure set in the late 1800s or early 1900s. It's about Phileas Fogg and a bet that he takes to sail around the world and travel around the world in 80 days. And the ending is a complete surprise because you think something's gonna happen one way. Anyway, no spoilers, and this is a really, really good book about winning and losing, and it's pretty genius the way that the author did the ending. In the middle, it's a little rough. This edition is almost 300 pages, but it's a really good read, and if you don't know the ending to Around the World in 80 Days, it is a classic and you should know the ending. Second book, Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. This book is so boring, especially in the first 3 chapters. It took me about a year to read the first 3 chapters, no joke. But once I was through those and actually sat down and said, okay, I need to finish this book, I started reading, and then I got more and more engrossed, and then I was like, I should probably push through this rough part. And by the time you get to the end, the last handful of chapters are so good and so beautiful and so confusing and just brilliant, and the ending is left wide open in a specific area. So this one is definitely worth reading. Push through all the blah chapters because there are a lot of blah chapters. I'm sorry, there just are. But by the time you get to the end, it is worth it. You will see our hero at his best, and you will be very glad that you finished it. Alright, next up is another Charles Dickens, A Tale of Two Cities. This book is a book that I had to read for high school, and I pushed through it. It's got a lot of boring parts. I even read the abridged version. This is not the abridged version, but I read a slightly abridged version that just cut out a bunch of descriptions of street lamps and really, really boring things because Dickens was paid by the word. And by the time I got to the ending, I was surprised to find that I was really invested in the characters, and I cried at the end because this book was so good. Fourth, we have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This is the first Bronte sisters I've ever read, and so far it's the only one. I'm about to read Jane Eyre, and Wuthering Heights is another one that you have to push through because it's a classic, and then when you get to the ending, you are so attached to the characters and so eager to find out what happens to them, and you realize things about them that you didn't know were true, and the last few pages, if the last few pages of a book are beautiful, I'm sold on that book, and that is true for all of these. The last few pages of this book are beautiful, but you have to read the boring parts to get to the exciting part. So unfortunately, that's true of a lot of classics. You have to read the boring parts to get to the good parts. To Kill a Mockingbird. I have a love-hate relationship with this book. My 2 best reader friends adore it. Just out of this world, adore it. And I did not get into it. I tried to read it in 6th grade and put it down at the trial, like at the most important part of the book. And I reread it in 2015. It made the hype come true, if that makes sense. the ending ties it all together, and that is what is important in a book, is that you see how it all comes together, and this book is beautiful because of its ending. So there you have it, my 5 classics that are rough in the middle and worth reading to the end. So if you're stuck in the middle of one of these books, it's gonna get better, I promise. The ending of these books was rewarding for me. A beautiful ending just seals the deal.